Now I believe now it's going to be Q&A with some of the media members.
Welcome to Sacramento. First off, Coach, I want to ask about recruiting. I know that's a lifeblood of the program, like you said. How much of an emphasis is going to be recruiting locally in Sacramento? I know that's been a big goal in Sac State athletics and locally. So just talk about that and what you see the program doing the next few years.
Right now, we have some open scholarships, and so we're working the transfer portal and looking into that just to find the players that are going to fit our style of play and fit us with their work ethic and that are great students. And so right now the immediate need is the transfer portal. There's a small window of time right now to hit that and to close those deals. After that, then we'll turn the page to the high school kids. And I mentioned earlier, but Northern California is truly a women's basketball hotbed. I have a lot of very, very close relationships with people in Northern California. And so we're going to work hard to keep those kids home. While we do that, we're going to recruit the globe, both at Oregon State and Oregon. We brought some of the best women's basketball players from around the world. We're not going to stay limited to just Northern California, even though those are the kids that we want to keep here.
Hi, Coach. Welcome to Sacramento. First of all, hey, I'm just curious, what style of play will fans be able to see on the floor? And my next question to follow up on that is, what did you learn at the University of Oregon under head coach Kelly Graves and implement that here at Sacramento State?
Style of play, we're going to play fast. We're going to play spread, pick, and roll. We're going to recruit highly skilled kids. Defensively, we're going to be primarily a man-to-man defensive team that's very disciplined and tough and hard-nosed. But right now, we're going to take the hand we're dealt with the kids that are here and figure out what gives these players the best chance to be successful while building towards our long-term goal. And what I learned from Coach Graves is that when we took over the program at Oregon State, it was at rock bottom. We inherited a group of players, and we figured out, how to survive and what we needed to do to win with those players. And that group that we inherited, we went to the WNIT Final Four. And while we were doing that, we recruited some other kids, Sabrina Ionescu, Ruthie Hebert, Satu Sabali. And so we were able to bring in some talent while we were taking care of the program. And so I think that's the greatest thing I'm going to take away from that experience. And we're going to try to do a similar blueprint here.
Hello, Coach. Welcome to Sac State. Super glad to have you here. So when you and Mark were having conversations about potentially naming you the head coach, what were some things that you saw about the program or about the school that really, really stood out and appealed to you and just drew your interest in potentially joining the school?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, my trust in Mark Orr. He's one of the premier athletic directors in the country, someone that I've known personally for a very long time. Second, I don't see a limit to what can happen here. It's truly a beautiful campus, 30,000 students. The location is 90 minutes from San Francisco. It's 90 minutes from Lake Tahoe. You got a city, it's one of only 30 cities in our country that has an NBA team. And it has an NBA team for a reason. And it's because Sacramento is an awesome city. On top of that, it's in a recruiting hotbed for women's basketball. The weather's incredible. And so it was one of those situations, as you were studying it, as you were talking to people that I trusted and were my peers, and as we were peeling back the layers of this thing, the consensus was this thing's a monster. We can get this thing rolling. And so there were a lot of factors that went into it. And then non-basketball, it's just a place that I'm really, really excited to raise my two daughters. It checked every box.
Coach, I'm just wondering, what challenges do you think come with becoming a first-time head coach at the Division I level and knowing that you kind of have to build up a program again that hasn't had a ton of success the last few seasons?
There's a learning curve in starting anything new. And I know I'm going to stub my toes along the way, but I know passion and work ethic and enthusiasm make up for a lot of it. This is the third program now that I'll rebuild. When we got hired at Oregon State 11 years ago, we got hired in July. There was one scholarship player on the roster when we took over, Elsara Greer. And we held open tryouts in the community, and it was 100 women's basketball players that showed up. And it ranged from high school kids to 50-year-old moms of 4 that wanted a chance to play in the Pac-10. From that program, we got to the NCAA tournament in 4 years. That program got to the Final Four 6 years later. And then we did it again at Oregon. They were 4-27 before we took over, and we started from ground zero. So there's been some valuable life lessons. I can kind of say I've already been there, done that, and so I understand the different landmines and how to navigate this. But I'm humble enough to know this is my first time being a head coach. I have a group of mentors that have invested in me and will continue to help me navigate this situation.
What do you remember about your relationship with Mark Orr back at St. Mary's? I know Mark mentioned it in the opening press conference, but I just want to get your perspective of what you thought about Mark that time ago.
So at that time, I was just learning the industry. I got to work for Randy Bennett, and I walked into a situation that was a well-oiled machine. Patty Mills and Matthew Dellavedova were there, and so I was just walking in with big eyes, just trying to learn everything, and getting to see Mark Orr and Randy Bennett running a top 25 men's program. It was eye-opening, and it was a machine. That started with Mark and trickled down to Randy. When I was there, I was really a student, just taking everything in and trying to learn. And that experience, I would say that's when I got my PhD in coaching, was when I got to be there and learn from Mark and Randy.
Yeah, Coach, I'm curious, you mentioned Randy Bennett in the men's program. What do you love in particular about coaching women, and especially women's basketball? And to follow up on that, with your connections with Oregon, St. Mary's, especially, and being 90 minutes away from the Bay Area, can fans maybe expect some big schools on the schedule, hopefully, in the future?
Ashley, my wife, was a point guard and played women's college basketball at Vanderbilt. And at that time, Vanderbilt was a top 10 women's program in the country. And so I got an opportunity to see firsthand what elite women's basketball is like. And her dad, Brad Smith, has had as great an influence on me in my career as anyone. And Brad Smith was the head coach at Oregon City High School for 30 years. Brad won 10 state titles there. I think 3 USA Today national championships, is that right? He had over 50 Division I players that had come through a blue-collar mill town up there in Oregon City. I've known Brad since I was in middle school, and I got to come watch his practices and his games from middle school all the way through my college career. I'd work all the girls' summer camps, the end of the trail tournaments. And so that's when I got to see elite leadership looks like in women's basketball and what elite women's basketball players look like. I've always been drawn to it, and Scott Ruick gave me that first opportunity 11 years ago when he got hired at Oregon State, and I'm very thankful that he reached out and called me. And this last 11 years has been beyond anything I could have imagined. When I switched over from the men's side to the women's side. Now scheduling, it's a complicated deal in college athletics. It's not that easy. So I know majority of the schedule's already done from the previous coaching staff. And so when the dust settles, we'll start putting together a schedule for the following year. We'll have a blend of high-level teams, home and home series that we'll start, guaranteed games. We'll find some tournaments to play in. But I'm excited to get to work on the following season schedule.
Even though this is your first time being a Division I head coach, you are very, very, very decorated assistant coach with a lot of very substantive experiences in different programs. Obviously at Oregon, going to multiple Final Fours, and your experiences with St. Mary's. Could you just touch on, you've already kind of touched on it earlier, but could you just go into more depth on how ready you feel you are to take on this opportunity and how prepared you really are to turn this program around?
Well, technically I'm 2-0. I got 2 games at Oregon because of a situation I got to coach, and so right now I'm undefeated. I probably should have just stayed an assistant. I'd have the best winning percentage in the country. I feel very ready due to the coaches that I've been able to work under and learn from. Vance Wahlberg at Pepperdine is a creator of the dribble drive motion offense, which now, what does that mean? He basically figured out it's threes and layups. is how you win. And that's what the NBA and WNBA have evolved to. He had that formula figured out 15 years ago. And so that was a great life experience. Getting to be with Randy Bennett and seeing a top 25 men's program and coach the NBA players that were there at that time, I got to see what the well-oiled machine looked like. And then I got to go cut my teeth at Oregon State and Oregon and see if we could dig out of those two holes. All of those different life experiences, all of those leaders, they all gave me different job descriptions. They all figured out I was a pretty good recruiter, so that's one thing I had to do at each of the stops. Those wide range of experiences is what's really prepared me for this opportunity.
All right, we have Mark Orr. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark, long time no talk. Hope you're doing well, first off. Second, I just wanted to say, how excited are you for the direction of this program? I know also, too, over the last few years, you guys have made some big hires and you've re-signed guys as far as coaches in the Sac State athletic program. I'm just curious, what's your envision for this program going forward, and how would you measure success?
Yeah, I'm thrilled, obviously, to hire Mark, and I think he's going to do a tremendous job. My vision for the program is we're going to compete for championships. These student athletes deserve it. This university deserves it. This community deserves it. When I looked at the women's basketball program, first, as I said earlier, I looked in the eyes of our student athletes, and I wanted to make sure they get the very best. This city of Sacramento, and I see Michelle and many of you, Cameron, you guys been around this community for a long time. I look back to the days when the Sacramento Monarchs were playing ball over at the old Arco Arena or Sleep Train or whatever the names, Power Balance, whatever the names were. But you know what? The fan engagement for women's basketball right here in Sacramento, it's here, and I know it's here. I felt that it's our responsibility here at Sacramento State to put forth a product, both quality student athletes who are good ambassadors and good in the community, and also competitive championship level basketball on the floor that will bring the community out, make our students proud, make our faculty proud, and all the community members here in Sacramento.
All right, well, thank you, everybody, for attending. Mark and Mark, thank you very much. Decided to
I like the Mark and Mark.
Mark Campbell Award.
Thank you guys for attending. We really appreciate your support.
Thanks, Mark. Good.
Stingers up.